We're going to move on to our next subject matter expert, Erin Rothman. With 2 decades of experience in stormwater and climate science, Erin has navigated diverse roles from serving as a principal scientist at 4 environmental consulting and stormwater companies to founding 2 climate technology ventures and an urban planning company. She has worked extensively with urban redevelopment, environmental mitigation, as well as the development and implementation of planning tools that map sustainable development and climate resilience strategies for state and local agencies. In 2015, she founded a climate technology company focused on innovative stormwater management solutions that enable municipalities to prioritize maintenance, prepare for and respond to storm events, and make decisions about capital improvements. We are delighted to welcome Erin Rothman.
Okay, so as you heard, I am a scientist, not a speaker. So prepare yourself accordingly. So I'm going to talk today about stormwater and flood risk that occurs within the Waccamaw Neck. First, to cover some flooding facts. The Waccamaw Neck is a very narrow strip of land that's located between a river and the ocean. As a result, we have a very sensitive environment, and we experience multiple kinds of flooding. The first is riverine flooding, and this occurs when streams and rivers exceed their normal capacity and the water overflows their banks and floods normally dry land. Most of this happens because of upstream storm events filling up the rivers, and that water flows downstream and overflows elsewhere. We also see coastal flooding, and this occurs when ocean water inundates or covers normally dry coastal land, usually as a result of higher than high or king tides and storm surges. And then we see urban flooding. This is caused by rain that falls on impervious surfaces like parking lots, roads, and roofs, and then flows on top of those surfaces, goes into the stormwater system, overwhelms that stormwater system because oftentimes the pipes are too small. Many of them were designed 50, 80, 100 years ago for smaller storm events and also less development. So they don't have the capacity to manage the stormwater that they're dealing with now. And then we see compound flooding, which is when 2 or more of these flood drivers occurs at the same time. And then these multiple drivers can amplify the effects of each other, causing greater issues than you would see if only one of them was happening. Now we're on to stormwater. So stormwater is rain that falls onto the ground, flows over the land, and does not absorb into the ground like it would normally. 1 inch of rain falling on 1 acre of land generates over 27,000 gallons of water. And depending on where you live, stormwater either does or used to contribute to your drinking water source by refilling underground aquifers if it's able to infiltrate into the ground, or by flowing into the rivers that we use for water sources. Stormwater now moves faster than ever because of roads, ditches, gutters, and storm sewers. All of these are designed to get water out and away as fast as possible. The more we build, the more stormwater we generate, and the less filters things back into the ground. And as it flows over these roads, it's picking up pollutants like metals, oils, nutrients, and fecal coliform. And as a result, stormwater is the #1 cause of water pollution. This is one of the reasons that shellfish beds in Pawleys Island are closed and limited in Merle's Inlet. So there are many ways that we can manage stormwater. Natural systems are the best, and it provides the most benefits. So trees and wetlands improve air and water quality. They reduce the heat island effect. They slow flooding. They're beautiful. They provide wildlife habitat and recreation. Natural wetlands, forests, floodplains, and other areas can be preserved to act as these buffers. If we happen to have removed them during development, we can replace them with constructed wetlands, swales, and other areas to replicate what was removed or destroyed. If we're working with existing buildings and infrastructure, we can retrofit those with green infrastructure, like green gardens, green roofs, or living walls. And gray stormwater infrastructure, like pipes, channelized streams, retention basins, and seawalls, is the customary way that we've managed stormwater in the past. So the natural and the natural-oriented systems have multiple benefits. Again, they provide air and water, they improve air and water quality, they reduce the heat island effect, they reduce flooding, they increase biodiversity, they allow us to have our space for recreation. Whereas gray stormwater infrastructure is a single benefit approach. It reduces flooding, it might remove nutrients or other chemicals before discharge. So what we normally do is some combination of all four, because it's not realistic to have one or the other in most cases. However, most of our cities do have the gray infrastructure. We're experiencing the problems with that now with the water pollution, the flooding that we're dealing with. So now we're starting to re-implement the green infrastructure and the nature-based solutions that were there in the first place. So we can look at how this affects the Waccamaw Neck. So all of these maps are the lower neck, just for consistency and relevance. So this is a map that shows the locations of the wetlands in the lower neck. All the light gray are houses and roads and other buildings, so that those are impervious surfaces. So in those specific areas, water will hit those surfaces, run off into the storm system, the wetlands, the river, the ocean. And then we add our current tree canopy. So between the wetlands and the forest that we have, even though we do have flooding issues, we have a really substantial natural system that's both beautiful and also serves a very, very specific purpose to enhance the way that we manage, inadvertently, our stormwater, the pollutants that we generate as a result of our cars, our fertilizers, our dogs. So this is our existing land cover. So this is from the National Land Cover Database. It does not differentiate between commercial, residential, or any other land use type. It's just based on actually impervious surface. So we're looking at low density, medium density, and high density. And we've done a pretty good job of integrating within our existing natural systems. So far. And then we add the new proposed plans for just the residential density increase. And you can see a really substantial change when we're looking from low to medium, medium to high, and then low or no residential to high density residential. So not only does this remove the tree canopy, affect the wetlands, it also significantly increases the amount of stormwater that needs to be managed. And with all those people and all those cars, we're generating a lot more pollution that's flowing straight into our surface waters. And then for fun, I added some sea level rise. So this is 3 feet of sea level rise. This is consistent with higher than high tide flooding if we have onshore winds, or a normal storm surge from like a smaller storm, tropical storm, or a nor'easter with the winds blowing onshore. We kind of shrink in a little bit. Then we add 6 feet of sea level rise. This is what we saw with Ian, pretty close. And we're losing those wetlands. And a lot of what we have left is pavement. So if we start back again with our natural areas, we add the sea level rise. And I do want to note that in the resiliency element referenced in the comprehensive plan, the county identified NOAA's predictions for sea level rise in the southeast. They recommended using the highest predictions for sea level rise. Those seemed really high, so I used the intermediate predictions for sea level rise and just referenced them, so they're actually 3.6 feet by 2100 and 6.9 feet by 2150. So my numbers for storm surge and hurricanes were pretty consistent with anticipated numbers for sea level rise. So then we add our existing development. It's not great, but we still have a lot of forests within those areas. And then once we add the proposed development, we lose a lot of that space. We lose the wetlands. And that has a lot of compounding effects because not only are we generating more pollutants, we're not able to treat it by passing it through the wetlands. We're not able to address the air quality with the trees. It's hot because the sun's reflecting off of the pavement and we don't have the shade that we're used to having. And then we lose the wildlife and our recreation. I'm not swimming in that water. Then there's the Stormwater Master Plan that the county pulled together. It identified 166 problem areas mostly related to existing flooding, drainage, and water quality issues. And just with the issues that we're dealing with now, with our relatively low level of development, they anticipate $64 million worth of improvements are required, and someone has to pay for that. They also identified 4 special protection areas, 3 of which are in the lower neck. That total of $8 million in improvements, and they have particularly devastating water quality, drainage, and flooding issues. We have a new proposed residential development on top of that, and we're basically compounding the issues that we already have. And then for kick sweepers and sea level rise, and it kind of reiterates what we're dealing with. So I do want to say that development and even redevelopment is not necessarily a bad thing, but poorly planned development can be devastating and very expensive. Especially when we live in a very delicate system like we have now, where there's a balance. We have very limited land. We have significant potential for hurricanes, for flooding, and water quality risks. And we have this magical feeling when we're in the salt marsh that we're at risk of losing. So by understanding the risks that we face, and by embracing and protecting our existing natural resources, we can preserve the beauty of the Waccamaw Neck, and we can enhance and protect our community. And again, we don't have to go back and fix it after we broke it, which is far more cost effective.
Thank you, Erin. Very enlightening. Again, volunteer hours, folks. Erin is not a paid consultant.
This is Dwayne Draper, Chairman of Keep It Green. We would appreciate your continued support of our work to protect and preserve the Waccamaw Neck. Thank you.